approach the issue is the interventions has to do first of all with the GIS commercial database, which in terms of on-site sanitation facility addresses properties and links to the town planning and the survey department for regular updates. It has to do with maintenance records. It has to do with billing and CRM applications to be able to monitor the delivery process of non-sewer sanitation. Of course, the billings and the charges through the delivery process, handling any complaints, handling promotions through the portals, and registering the facility. In essence, institutionalize and operationalize the whole process to continuously monitor and collect all the necessary records. The same principle can be applied to fecal sludge management. So again, you want to be able to have maintenance records for all the logs of the treatments and the reuse through the billing system to the reuse operator license. You want to monitor through maintenance all the emptying activities and the inspections. You want to be able to bill for any sanitary work, and we offer them in a structured way so to be able for customers to be as easily usable. So we stage is the operationalize in implementing the billing, the operations, and the maintenance management. And the third side, when all these are operational, to have an active monitoring and evaluation system in place. So in a very short brief, that's how we approach the actual problem of utilizing these systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pedros. We'll now move on to Dixon. I think similarly, how do you support utilities in ensuring the accuracy and reliability of the data collected?
Great, thank you very much. Similarly, just as you said, we've worked with over 30 utilities across Africa, providing digital tools that significantly increase operational efficiencies, cut losses, grow revenues, and improve customer satisfaction. And this is both in water and sanitation as service providers. So the approach that we use is more citizen-driven. Our journey began with a citizen feedback platform. And so for every utility that we engage, we begin with providing them citizen feedback tools, or tools that the customer can be able to utilize to access better services, to be able to provide feedback on complaints, on challenges that they're having, be it on seaward sanitation or on-site sanitation and seaward sanitation. And also even on the water side, we also do that a lot. And the data that is captured now through the feedback from the users that these utilities are serving is what we use now to aggregate and to help the utility to analyze these data for better decision making, to be able to target their resources on where the pain points are for their customers, and also building a whole enterprise solution to help the utility to respond proactively to the challenges that are being raised by these customers. So our approach is more citizen-driven or customer-driven in terms of the challenges that they're accessing or experiencing. One example that I could share is a tool that we gave to one of the largest utilities in the country, whereby we helped them to be able to access their customers' feedback digitally. And the average before we provided them a tool was about 400 complaints on monthly basis, and this is within with a population of 6 million during the day and 4 at night. And that's pretty low, but digital data to inform on their decision. So within a short period of time, that rose from
and it never got signed. So there is no point having a policy that is not signed by ESCO. But this year, in March, it was signed by ESCO, and it has stipulated all the works that will be done with them, like our brother has said, Engineer Femi, the regulatory services, the regulations agencies, and the monitoring agencies. So having a policy is really the right step, the first step in the right direction. Now, with all that we've learned, we've known that training, retraining, learning, unlearning, it's the way forward because we have to measure what is coming out. Right now, we have cholera out there. And if you don't know that your wastewater is mixing with your drinking water, then you don't know what is happening. So Lagos being a peculiar state, we've taken a bold step to do what the national has not done, being a sub-national. And so we need to also key into this data, public data system that we've learned because we want to move further. And these 2 days of a lot of talks on how we can even develop the value chain from waste. It has even shown all of us that we can even make money from our waste. There's so much to do. And with the right step, and if I wish I'd gotten this earlier, I would have just shown you all the people that are doing one thing or the other and how they are reporting to the government. It shows that we're going to be well managed. It shows that since you've apportioned responsibilities, then the work will move further. Laswamo is key in this area and the GMO and how.
Thank you, Madam. We've heard that there are different players who deal with sanitation and the sanitation data. So it's not only maybe the ministry responsible for water or the one responsible for local government. How do they collaborate to aid in optimizing this data and the sanitation services?
Thank you. Yes, sludge is like the Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, the Lagos Water Corporation, which gives water to public supply of water to the people. The ministry coordinates the sector. We also collaborate with the Ministry of Health. We collaborate with the Lagos State, but it helps us if we do so. And it also guides us in the area of our budgeting. When policies are supposed to be made, this collaboration and the data from the public, it helps us even to collaborate better. And data gathering is also key. It helps us to gather more data. Some of the other agencies gives us insight that we have been here, and this is what the people are saying. This is the kind of data that we have gathered here. And it also gives us advantages of reaching out to the public the more. Because if a agency or a sister agency has visited a locality, then there's really can get data driven, gathered from those areas. And it also helps us in our planning purposes. It's very key that we had feedbacks from sister agencies.
A good example is we have customers in Swaziland, in Lesotho, Africa, Zambia. Biggest base definitely is in Egypt. For example, we're billing at this moment more than half of the population, half the governorates of the whole of Egypt. So main governorates where our customers from 2005, 2006, and over a period of 5-6 years, they increase 3 times the turnover. They reduce the arrears extremely more than 80%. They increase the customer base by 200%. And overall, the collection efficiency, the customer complaints, the readings, the non-revenue water have all the performance indicators have improved considerably. And because of that, we were so successful in the overall in Egypt. With the latest example, Giza, which is a huge governorate with more than 8 million people, which is our latest customer. Just to understand how large is the operational system there, they have 46 centers.
Dhaka city in Bangladesh, you know that it is the 9th largest and 7th densely populated place. So where we try to work together with the data platforms, so we are working on non-sewered areas and also utility service agency, Dhaka Water Supply and Sewerage Authority. So we try to build this gap, so how we can non-sewered area can be linked and properly and optimize the service in scheduled desludging. That is also one of the activities that. So when it comes to the sanitation value chains, as we all discussed, the platform is enabled, so we can properly see the baseline data set. Then we can see all the operation, how we've been, but also how this treatment is have the evidence-based operations for decision making as well.
We'll come back to you.
So I think then in this,
I think Kavita will come back to you.
Getting cost.
I think we'll come back to you.
Yeah. So these are the major things that we could highlight. And then also this data system will enable us to identify the gaps in service delivery, identify marginalized communities, and then also serve the gender-related activities. And also one of the things I want to highlight, at the moment we are working on the service indicators, customized into the country level. So we also implementing service indicators in this data platform so people can see the progress in the subnational level. And making technology open source, we believe that it will bring us the scalability across the Bangladesh context and Nepal. So these are the activities that we do. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move on to Dixon. I think all this data really, how do we now analyze it? And we know that the technology is also being enhanced now. So for Dixon, are there opportunities to incorporate advanced analytics into utility data systems, such as predictive analytics to foresee sanitation needs and challenges? And now we even have the artificial intelligence, the AI. Dixon.
Yes, thank you. Most definitely, and it's work that we're already doing with some of our existing clients here in Kenya and parts of Southern Africa. Predictive maintenance, it's primarily driven by advanced analytics, which help predict when, especially at the utility level, when sanitation equipment, such as the wastewater treatment plants, the pipelines and the pumps are likely to fail and require maintenance. Like you had, I think there was one of the panelists who mentioned of an equipment that was bought in the 90s. So regular maintenance schedules and ensuring that is maintained can enhance predictive analytics, predictive maintenance, and we do that a lot. Demand forecasting is the second one, where we're able to predict and analyze patterns in water usage together with the utilities. And also forecast future demand. And this way, the more water is, the more there is usage in water, or the increase in water usage also means increased needs for sanitation. And so this also helps to build correlation that helps in planning adequate sanitation services and infrastructural upgrades. We have a whole module for that, especially on the sanitation side. Then most importantly, I think behavioral patterns, and especially when it comes to customers. Customers, as I said earlier, provide us enormous volumes of data, and artificial intelligence, and with GPTs that can be customized to read in already existing data sets, where we have data sets, millions and millions of data sets. We can enhance customer experience, analyzing usage patterns, trends, implementing solutions, and mitigating challenges that are before again from previous data sets. Like you noticed, when you talk of artificial intelligence, you're using previous data, or you're using volumes of data that have been captured to inform on the future. And that's what we're working on, and working with some of our utilities. Nairobi Water is one of our largest utilities, and Lilongwe Water Board is also one of our utilities where we have volumes of data. So we're building artificial intelligence tools, riding on the existing language models to analyze previous data that we've captured, millions and millions of records on customer patterns in terms of usage patterns, to inform on the future needs that the utilities need to plan and prepare for. So predictive analytics is definitely possible, riding on existing data sets that we've already captured over time. We've worked in the water sector for about 10 years now. This is our 11th year, and for utilities that have benefited from our platforms, for get to enjoy some of these tools that we are releasing in the near future. So it's definitely possible, and I see more of the data that we've been able to capture being used for predictive analytics.
Thank you, Dixon. I'll move on to Engineer Adefeme. I think we've heard about the good work you are doing, but I believe that there are also challenges. So what challenges do you face in utilizing high-quality sanitation data for service delivery?
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that question. The Lagos sanitation sector is an emerging sector, and we are still at a rudimental stage where there's a lot of things to be brought on the table. The right policy we have now, the laws are there, of course, needs to be reviewed, to align with what is obtainable in the state as of now. There's a huge growing population coming into Lagos every day, and Lagos is the 5th largest economy in Africa, as you know, and it's growing in population. And challenges are there. The challenges that we have in terms of data is inadequate tools for data gathering. As of now, we're still more of analog, kind of data gathering. So we need to scale up to ICT scale, where we have the centralized data gathering tools that is being utilized by Zambia. We need to step up our game also. So we have challenges in that space. So gathering data is now a slow process for us. And we have pockets of data that are being gathered amongst different government agencies. So bringing together the data, it's a challenge for us. So we need tools to bring it together to be able to harness the advantages of this data. And there's a limited public awareness, for data to really be evaluated and utilized. The public needs to be aware, and there needs to be buy-in into what you're doing with the data. As of now, we need a lot of advocacy, for data gathering purposes to be very effective. And we have uncooperative stakeholders, some very uncooperative. Once you want to inspect, they take you to another level. So you have to use the big stick of government to be able to ensure compliance you know. So we still have pockets of them here and there, but of course we are dealing with them. So it's a challenge. So there's need for awareness. And we have access, lack of access to some of our areas that are not accessible at this time. So it's and even our court processes are slow. You know, for some of these uncooperative stakeholders, you need to that there are some facilities that if you want to ensure compliance, you get some maybe please step down and you know. So we need more education, even to our policymakers, our principals, to be able to understand the role that we play in the sector. Thank you.
Thank you, engineer, for that. Now, the data we collect, I think if it's not of good quality data, it's of no use. As we say in the data sphere, garbage in, garbage out. So I'll pass over in terms of what mechanisms do you have in place to ensure the accuracy and reliability of the non-SWAT sanitation data that's been collected and used.
Thank you. We are looking at it in two ways. One, and in terms of sector coordination and collaboration, whereby the role of provision of sanitation is we are joint at the hip between public health and water and sanitation. And therefore, we have formed a joint task force for data validation. That is at a capture and containment. Therefore, the structures that the public health are using, in Kenya, we have the community health promoters reporting on the data around capture. We have the same schema whereby the definition of terms. So when we talk of a poor flush toilet, when we talk of a pit latrine, we have the same understanding. That data, we are visualizing them in ArcGIS, that is a company's online information management information system that is integrated with our billing system. Next steps, we've not gotten there yet. We are looking at the way a consumer gets a water bill. From meter reading, get a water bill, the bill is paid, then the service, we can track the customer satisfaction level. We are now getting there, whereby we want to monitor how was this service provided. How can we monitor? We are monitoring that data from the time the toilet was constructed to that toilet is being emptied. How is that tracking? And therefore, we are coming up through ArcGIS. One, we are validating and ensuring the quality of data through visualization, whereby one, we can be sure of the exact location of where this toilet was constructed. Two, we are working with the manual pit emptiers. That toilet that is being emptied can be tracked to the same toilet that was being constructed. Then at the treatment point, when the waste is being disposed, these wastes, we can also try to track it with the toilet that we collected data at construction. And with that, we'll have a more precise and accurate data. Then integrating the two sets of data. The public health has an approach that they are calling RUSH, the Rural Urban Sanitation and Hygiene Tool in Kenya. That is riding on the previous community-led total sanitation. We are looking at these two sets of data. We are reporting on the same number of households. And therefore, can this data cross-intercheck each other? The water and sanitation sector and the public health sector, the numbers that they have, or the data that they have in terms of sanitation facilities and management on sanitation of waste is the same data that the water and sanitation department is talking about, and that brings reliability and accuracy of data. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. Now, as we all know, technological advancements keep on being enhanced, and as a sector, sanitation sector, we don't want to be left behind. That's why the project was also looking at what are other sectors doing in terms of managing the data. So I'll move on to Dr. Pedros, just to give us an insight in terms of what future trends do we foresee in the use of public data for sanitation services. Dr. Pedros.
Yes. The key word here is for the future is everybody calls now smart water Smart water involves building the water utility in the 21st century. It involves what we call smart system, be able to measure consumption, to have proper communication networks, to be able to send data easily to and from the utilities, database systems to manage and use, be able to process and evaluate this data with advanced data systems. First of all, we're talking about integration. Utility management functions need to be integrated. You need to have a core database system that ensures automated workflows. Like my colleague mentioned earlier, preventive maintenance triggers, arousing automatically from field measurements. This kind of automation can involve optimization or artificial intelligence, whatever you want to call it. But the bottom line is automation through integration within the utility, so certain decision making can be taken very fast and very easily. And that kind of intelligence can be nowadays introduced at various stages without human interaction and to enable automation. For example, you have a call center. It can easily recognize the reported problem and automatically channel the instructions. This is already happening. I mean, we can use social media, and when somebody through his phone posts a problem, that problem is automatically recorded in the call center, is forwarded to the right mate. Somebody is already, and he's attending the. Makes everybody's lives easier, and it is available. Everybody has a mobile phone today, and this kind of maintenance automation, it's feasible and it's easy and makes everybody's lives easy. So it doesn't mean that automation and this smart water we're talking about complete. It actually makes every.
You're breaking. We'll come back to you. Maybe we can move on to Kavinda as well in terms of what are the future trends you see. We're now in the fourth industrial revolution period. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to highlight actually when you started the session, you was about the if we can't manage. But I would like to bring it that we see that the public data is continuous measuring. So how we can measuring of service delivery to drive all the automated decision making, and which will be enabled through API integrations and AI chatbot for all the feedback for any issues and all, and also which should be also enabling the sustainability of this platform. So, and one of the key things that we also focus to scale up this new technologies, new digital tool across the countries. And also when the key bottleneck of this all digital tools is the baseline data sets. So we are looking into how even AI technologies and how we can bring the cost down for building the base data sets for starting the service deliveries in the municipality level. So that is one of the things. And we are using satellite data for extracting building footprints, and also we are looking into drone technologies, but there are pros and cons. So we believe that this kind of new technologies can bring low down the developing the base layer, data layers for across the countries, which can be scalable, and then bringing service delivery. And also, which you know that in the municipality level, so there are utilities are the main revenue generation. So how we can link the sanitation service delivery, which has a less revenue generation for sustainability of municipality, how it bring the sustainable model for public data systems. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move also to Dixon. I think being on the ground in the African context, and definitely we cannot be left behind. What future trends do you see in this, and particularly are there opportunities, for example, for homegrown solutions? Thank you.
Yes, most definitely. Homegrown solutions are always the best, of course, taking up into consideration best practices, global best practices. So one of the future trends, especially in the water and sanitation sector that we see and have already started working on, is being able to scale rapidly by providing these enterprise solutions that we're talking about, service business. Utilities across Africa have been subjected to purchasing and very, very expensive rate or traditional based business models where you have to go through a tendering process, and then of course conflicts of interest come in, and then the utility ends up getting probably a substandard solution. And so what about the small and medium-sized utility providers that are left across Africa, which make the largest piece of utility providers that we have, small and medium? In Kenya, we have about four very large utilities, and then the rest are about 86, which are small and medium sized. They cannot afford the large, expensive solution. So software as a service is a platform for the future, where a utility in South Africa or North Africa or West Africa can subscribe to a service without having to procure it for very expensive rates. And then get to experience the best integrated future-based kind of solution that we're talking about. And then secondly, also providing Uber-like an Uber-like experience when it comes to water trucks, when it comes to exhaust services or on-site collection points. Customers can easily go to their phone. The same way they order for an Uber, they can order for that water truck, they can order for an exhaust service, and get premium service, and even get to see and compare pricing to reduce on the kind of exploitation that we get to see. So the future in Africa is building homegrown solutions that are provided at a few coins on a software as a service business model. We've seen the West go and transition in that way. That's why we don't buy Microsoft in CDs and DVDs as we used to before. You subscribe to Office 365 and pay on a monthly subscription, and you have enterprise software globally updated on your laptop. That's what we're looking for. QuickBooks, the same thing. They've transitioned to that kind of model, from a traditional model to a subscription, $6 a month for a QuickBooks subscription for a utility. And so that's the direction that we are pitching for, and we envision and we are building, so that any utility, doesn't matter whether you're serving 10 connections or you're serving 100,000 connections, you are able to get the same solution at a subscription fee within your ability to pay, and based on the customer service that the customers that you're serving. So that's the future that we see. That's the future that we're building across Africa.
Between the gown and the town, as I normally put it, should be bridged. As we speak, we have a lot of data in the universities. They've done so much, but we don't know. We don't know. We act in isolation. So the policy whereby silos will be broken, where we'll be doing things with unity and we'll know what other people are doing. Transparency, like my brother said, Brian was talking about transparency. So the policies will be reviewed, like my brother said, and we'll put in such information. It's not as if in Lagos we don't have a lot of institutions, and we have LASRO, Lagos Resilience Office, and that Resilience Office, we already have what MDAM, the MDG goal says, in our own ways, the stress and the shocks and all, and what we need to do. We've already laid it down, and Lagos State has a master plan. However, we'll need to move in the direction whereby in the policies we even have spaces for like private toilet management, what people can do as business, having seen the various lines that business can come out. And we're talking about an economy that needs rejigging, and we have jobs to provide for our people. So that is also a better way that I think we can work. The issue of climate change has also made us to stand on our toes, because there's so much to do and they are so interrelated. Environment has no boundary. There's so much that is happening and is going around, and we can't but make sure that we capture that data. There's also, while I was PS, a knowledge center in Unilag that I know that we collaborated with. They call it evidence use of information in environmental planning. The things that are happening there, we need to come together. In our state university as well, LASU, there are centers for environmental research and all. There's so many things they're doing that we need to put into use, and let them bring it to the town so that the town can make use of it for both our good in the environment sector, the wash sector, the sanitation sector, and even for business and economic prosperity. So in so doing, we'll be fulfilling, leaving no one behind of the SDG goals. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now be winding up before we go to the questions. But before we do that, maybe just a question to Dixon. I hope I won't put you on the spot. But what opportunities exist in the WASH? What opportunities exist for the WASH funders to improve public data systems, especially for non-SWAT sanitation in utilities and municipalities across sub-Saharan Africa? I hope you got that question from your perspective.
Yeah. Yes, I got it. I got your question. Your question. So this is a challenge that we've been posing to funders, and it's a point of reflection when it comes to digitization, when it comes to automation. We have Africa is really defragmented in very small units. We have Malawi has 5 utilities. Nigeria has so many different utilities, public utilities, both serving in the sanitation side. Kenya has over 90 utilities, yet it's a country. And so for the question we pose to funders, an approach that would be sustainable to support digitization across Africa is probably looking at one solution or building a couple of few solutions that address very specific needs that can be aggregated across. A lot of funding goes into funding specific utilities or one-on-one utilities, one-on-one engagement. So you find in Kenya, out of the 90 utilities that we have, probably only 5 or 10% have access to funding, and the rest are left looking for their own solutions. So looking for service providers across Africa that are addressing very specific needs, and our challenges are similar. Whether you go to Nigeria, whether you go to Liberia, whether you go to Malawi, our challenges cut across. Looking for service providers, working with partners like EDAMS or WonderKid or a few others that are addressing these needs, building a wholesome solution that can be provided on a software as a service kind of scale in en masse, so that it doesn't matter the kind of size of utility you are and who you're serving an African who needs better services. And so that way we can be able to move faster. So funding from a place of, I know funders work with service providers directly, but there are too many defragmented service providers across the continent. And that's why we keep needing more funding, and yet we're not being able to meet and accelerate our SDG 6 goals.
Good output. You can't do monitoring and evaluation without proper operational systems. That's my main point.
Thank you. We're being told to rush, so apologies for the other panelists. I think we'll answer the questions. I want to ask you to conclude. So maybe questions from the panelists, from the panel, from the audience, sorry. Going round, so just identify yourself, where you're coming from, and who you're directing.
Solution and the gown and the town, as mentioned by the permanent secretary, former permanent secretary. How could we merge the homegrown solution? Because in the university, we were taught so many things, and I always wonder, how come all this tech thing, what have we produced? Yes, we have produced some things, but it's not as much as the knowledge, the effort, and everything going into it. Homegrown solution, gown and town? How do we merge it? Thank you.
Thank you. Another question?
An area I really want us to explore and probably hear from the panelists is taking the example of Lagos, for instance. We've had a lot today, and also the academics too are here. It's important that we begin to look at data readiness, skill development. We have a lot of our computer graduates, computer engineers, data scientists, but how do we make sure that they are data ready in the sanitation sector? I think this is very important. My second one is, I don't know which of the panelists mentioned something about the carbon market issue, which is a climate action now that we're all looking for. Lagos has got the population, Lagos has got the sheet, and Lagos has got the resources that the state, because we are looking for money to build these systems, and the manager had already said it. So how can Lagos take advantage of the carbon market so that this sheet can be converted to money? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we can respond. I think I can ask Kavinda to respond on the homegrown solutions. The question was that we have a lot of universities in place who are doing research. So how can this be turned, this capacity be harnessed to develop these homegrown solutions? Thank you. Kavinda.
Yeah, that's kind of a good question to think about it. Like in this case, so we also representing university itself, and then also we are doing the development project in the countries. So most of the time, actually, when we integrated like data systems, so even ourselves, so at the moment, actually, we giving more emphasis on the homegrown, let's say, the regional data initiatives that we do, how we bring that one into the country itself. So how country can take up this data platform, data analytics itself. So we always actually looking into the academic partnerships, and then in the countries as well. So, and linking all these kind of challenging things into the sustainability of this ecosystem. So, but I also wanted to highlight sometime actually, if this is like when you say about this data analytics or that let's say private companies or even working on the data platform, so they are also ready to take up these solutions. So what we see in the Asia, in this even this data ecosystem, so even the private entities really absorbing the fresh graduate related to computer science. The colleague asked several questions. So we have many computer graduates these days, how those can be integrated. So when we discussing about this scaling up public data systems, so even the local companies coming with different solutions. Now they are talking about before we talking about 2 years back, like call center. Now they're talking about the AI-based helpline. So I see that, so this is the kind of the activities that we see in the country level, but institution like AIT, Asian Institute of Technology, as a regional platform. So what we do is actually, as I mentioned in my previous kind of a question, answer into the one question. So we're looking into bringing the cost, the reduce the cost of data generation. So to start this kind of public data system in the country. So in this case, actually, we are opening up different research questions to our even internal system. So in highlighting what is the really demand in the ground, so how we can match the industry into academia. So this is the kind of iterative process, but we can harness big impact on if you properly linkage the academia into this development projects and then scaling process. So we have several evidence like that. So this is the this is the answer I can give from Asian context at the moment. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I believe the second question has also been answered in terms of getting the data scientists ready. So I think it's the issue of capacity building as well as the linkages with industry. There was the issue of what are we doing on the carbon market. I think we've got 60 million people in Lagos. If we estimate just 1 kg of fecal waste per day per person, That's 16 million kgs. Now that's a lot, eh? So what? 3 million. Yeah, 23 million times people, times a minimum of 1 kg each per day. That's a lot of fecal waste. So the question is, what are we doing about it? Particularly bear in mind the value addition and maybe the opportunities for carbon trading and so on. So maybe Engineer Femi, you can take that question.
So, as you have said, there's a lot of potential in Lagos sanitation. The circular economy is huge. The sludge production is huge. And we can have a lot of optics from it. We could transform this fecal sludge into soil conditioners, fish meal. You have coal char for energy, for your furnaces, for burning. You could transform fecal sludge, into CNG, utilized for retrofitting our public buses, the production of gases. You could utilize the effluents for gardening, their nutrients, huge nutrients. So there's a lot of potentials that the carbon footprint of the Lagos sludge can produce. So there's need for investments in this regard, where investors will key in, and of course for infrastructures to come in. And there's a lot of revenue stream in the sanitation sector. So just key to it. Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, it is an opportunity for private sector participation. I know in Kenya a lot has been done. So maybe Timothy can just give us a brief before we ask other questions.
Yeah, for tapping on carbon credits, it's only proving or quantifying and proving that you are controlling greenhouse gas emissions and trapping on the carbon and ensuring that the carbon stays within the soil conditioner for 100 years. In Nakuru, Kenya, we are making briquettes out of human waste and seed balls for forest regeneration. And currently, we are constructing biodigesters where schools, where we have high population of kids, we are using their human waste to make methane gas for cooking. With that, we are proving that we are containing the methane gas from emission to the environment, and therefore in the process of tapping into the carbon credits. So it's doable and it's possible, and in Kenya we'll be showcasing that this is another frontier for the funding for sanitation services. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a hand in the front there. Where's the mic? Please ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Yusuf Yakub Regasiu from Kaduna. I listened carefully and I really enjoyed and gained a lot of insight from the discussion. And I also made to understand the importance of data. But my question and inquiry, my concern is a state like Kaduna that has more than 13 million people with competitive demands in the whole state. Generating data is quite capital intensive. Is there any advice, suggestions, way forward for people like us that are in charge of sanitation in the state and with competitive demands, like I said, looking at the high intensive money that is required for this, that one can look outwards to see if there are other ways that one can be able to see and catch or touch that will assist in that generation anywhere in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brian, you can take that one up.
Thank you very much for that question. Yeah, I think I'll really sound more of marketing, a marketing officer. Water is life, we all know, but sanitation is health. So without sanitation, you will be dying, in short. So the encouragement to decision makers is that it's either you invest in sanitation or you start losing your population. Now, for you to come up with solutions, by nature, you must understand that sanitation is a multi-sectoral thing to manage. You just don't need engineers, you need social workers, you need doctors, you need all sorts of people. And if you have to come up with appropriate interventions, you must definitely come up with a data evidenced decision-making system. Yeah, so please do not just think of very, very sophisticated systems. Start from coming up with the need for information from the right stakeholder. So when you do stakeholder mapping, you know what kind of data will come from which stakeholder. Then bring in something that will collect. What I want to really encourage decision makers in this case is the fact that every interaction should produce a data set. As an example, if you go to a water utility to apply for a service, it should bring out coverage. You go to a clinic to complain about your sickness, it will bring out a disease burden. So it's as simple as that, without necessarily looking at the cost. The benefit is much, much more than the cost. So as policymakers, we need to look at solutions. We have heard, inclusive of solutions that are homegrown. There are solutions that are quite expensive, but let's start from somewhere, because without it, we are losing our population. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. We've come to the end of our session. There's a hand there. Oh, but 2, 3 hands. Okay. We'll give you very brief interventions because we're coming to an end. We can start with Dr. Pedros, then we'll go to Dixon. Then we'll conclude.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, very brief from my side. The question was very critical from the gentleman. The point here is everybody talks about data. I work with quite a few data sets from on-site sanitation. The biggest problem they have, they're all static data sets. The results of surveys that at some stage they did, they're not being formally renewed, and they're basically static data sets. The trick here to collect reliable data is to operationalize your processes. That's the answer. It's not the answer to build database and data sets and research projects. You have to operationalize and digitalize the whole on-site sanitation process. That by itself, if it's successful, will automatically generate your data. Thank you.
Thank you. Dixon, 1 minute or less.
Agreed. Just like Petro has said, every day you capture data. By sending out your field teams to the field, they are capturing data, only that they are capturing it manually. Simple tools, mobile applications that even, I believe, can be built within Lagos, the universities or the talent that you have there. You're able to build simple tools that can digitize the capturing of that data. That's where the journey begins. It's simple, it's straightforward, it's not complicated.
Thank you. Let's give a round of applause to the panelists. Thank you very much. Thank you. It was very interactive, as well as a round of applause to ourselves for being here. Thank you. I'll ask Barakat to come and give us a few announcements.
That it was my sound, and that comment blew me away.
Thank you very much. So, as I mentioned earlier at the start of the program, DevAfric is currently implementing a project called Public Data System Strengthening. So, part of our project includes a lot of approaches, learning materials, and an opportunity for utilities and municipalities across sub-Saharan Africa to participate. One of which is the inaugural webinar series that will be happening next week, Friday, July 5th. So if you scan this code, it will lead you to the registration page for the webinar. I will appreciate you to join. During this webinar, we'll be featuring the NAWASCO information system. It's the first of a series. So every month, we'll be spotlighting different sanitation data system tools across Africa. So we are starting with the NAWASCO tools, and the next one will spotlight another tools. And that way, the essence is to drive cross-learning among different countries across Africa. And also on this inaugural webinar, we'll be launching our cohorts. So the cohort is an opportunity for utilities and municipalities to get access to resources to build their own data system. So it's an opportunity that DevAfric is leading with support from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we hope that we'll have participants from this session. So if you register, we'll also reach out to you with any information about the project. You get access to all information. And please, we passed out a form. Please make sure you fill out this form and return it back to my colleague standing here. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining us.
John. And the title is Strengthening Governance for Effective Water and Sanitation Financing. Then following after that is another presentation on investment opportunities in the water sector by Wole Afolabi. And so please. Oh, he's already there. Okay, fantastic. So, you in. Yes, good morning, friends. Can we have our attention, please?
Thank you. In the next few minutes, we will be, for those who are interested, we will be discussing on strengthening governance for effective water and sanitation financing. That's the subject matter to be discussed here. So if that's not your interest, you relocate to another. So the next 1.5 minutes, we will reorganize ourselves so that we can give ourselves some good attention for some 10, 15 minutes. And then we'll be through. So while we are rearranging ourselves, moving to the relevant classes, I would want to say that something has come out that governance is very fundamental to whatever progress that a sector needs to take. On the first asking, people always want to say financing is the challenge. That financing is the challenge. And even in personal lives, people would always want to say they have money or they do not have money. But usually financing, like the money people would say, has never been the challenge. It's always the environment that sustains the finance or the environment that attracts the financing. So with respect to water and sanitation financing, we will try to look at the various opportunities that are there for us to strengthen our governance system. It looks like Nigeria, we have made efforts to make the right laws. But before we put them into practice, we complain that the laws are not good enough. We complain that the laws are not good enough. So we have strong policies, we have strong laws, but we end up not implementing them and looking back at us and saying, no, the policies are not good, we need to change them. The laws are not good, we need to change them. So in this discussion, we would make efforts for all of our sector players to see the various opportunities that we can see the benefit of strengthening our governance. Now, my name is Sonny Elisha John, the Deputy Chief of Party for the LUWASH program in Lagos State, being funded by USAID. Thank you. Thank you. Yesterday, I had the privilege of taking a table that had to do with institutional reforms, leveling up with institutional reforms. And these two presentations, to my mind, answer to themselves. If you are not okay, I would use my laptop because I'm not good at wasting time. Can somebody get? Good. Good. Beautiful. Oh. Great. So, yes, but they have it there, but I'm not good at wasting time. Okay, friends. So we will quickly deal with three or four subject matters, and I'll try to simplify it in such a way that you would see that you actually knew what I was thinking about, and you were actually an expert in those things that we are talking about. First, identifying the opportunities in strengthening governance. Sometimes we as consultants, when we are told to please, develop a governance framework or to strengthen a governance framework, it will look like, what am I strengthening there? For us in Nigeria's WASH sector, I'm going to pinpoint quite a number of opportunities that are there for us to improve so that we go back to our various states and see how we can improve that. One slide is dedicated to benchmarking. We don't only go for benchmarking of utility operations, but we also want to benchmark the fact that others have passed through the same problems as we are, so that whenever we're having those challenges, we don't think we are isolated. Then number three, would discuss some implementable strategies and probably some resultant effect and benefit. So the first thing, or the first gap I would want us to take note of is on the same thing, policy framework. Why is it that every reform starts with policy? Why is it that every donor organization always insists on policy? It's because, as the lawyers will say, you cannot build on nothing. Policy is the basis upon which any sector should build upon. And so, same in the wash sector, whenever we drill down on having a clear policy, we actually want to have a solid foundation. So never get tired of reinforcing your policy. Number two is the possibility of decentralizing the water and sanitation management. Some countries, that is one of the things that triggered their progress. It looks like we have a very centralized form of we are unconsciously running a centralized form of government in every form of what? Of management. For example, the federal is finding it difficult to sublet functions to the state. The state are finding it difficult to sublet functions to the local government. The local government are finding it difficult to sublet functions to individuals. The same in the family system. We find it difficult to delegate what? Functions. No. One of the best gaps that we can utilize is that of what? Promoting decentralization. Even our utilities, we should find a way of decentralizing them so that the whole is a sum of the individual pieces. And the individual pieces, well left alone, might be able to survive on their own. So it is easier to solve the compartments than to solve the whole. For example, we are having about 9 regions in Lagos Water Corporation. Why should they all be answerable to Ijora? No. They should not be taking everyday operational instructions from Ijora. No. They should be taking their individual instruction from the local administration. So the regional business manager, for example, by policy, by governance framework, should be able to take their decisions, make their decisions, and implement them. Encourage facilitating public-private partnership. I prefer to call it private sector participation. Friends, whether it is a takeover by the private sector or a sharing of responsibility, it is just clear that the public sector is incapable of funding all that the wash sector requires. So we have to find a way of calling for help. So while I am not advocating for direct private takeover, but I strongly subscribe to what? To private sector participation. We allow the private sector to help support the various things that we are doing. Move to the next slide. We also have an opportunity in community management. Quite a number of things are situated and located in communities. Is it possible we begin to look at our wash infrastructure and see which are the proximate communities that are there that can take ownership and take responsibility? Thank you. Then exploring innovative financing, which 2, 3, 5 classes have already dealt with, so I will not spend much energy there. Then strengthening data collection. In every presentation, you would see it that data is critical for what? For conducting any enterprise. Now, but for me, it's beyond collecting data during the activity. For example, almost every project that comes has its own M&E framework. My opinion is that there should be an M&E supervisory even after the conclusion of the what? Of the program, so that it doesn't die along with the program. But check historically, you discover that if you are having a World Bank project, immediately the World Bank project finishes, everything about that closes up. If it's a USAID program, immediately after the guys have gone, everything shuts up. But I'm presuming that if we are able to get some funding for after program monitoring, then we may be able to go far. Then the last is the strongest: community awareness, advocacy, and community awareness. We have all agreed that the human will is very difficult to compel. So the best way to get a human being to adapt, to comply, is to appeal to them. So to that extent, every program, every governance structure should put within itself the structure to always raise awareness and advocate for support. The next slide is that of benchmarking. Benchmarking system strengthening. I took Rwanda, which is one of the developed nations of the world now. I took Rwanda, which is one of the developed states or nations of the world now. Governance reforms and the establishment of WASAC have significantly increased access to clean water and sanitation. Whenever they brought in their water and sanitation strengthening, it was able to break through. Colombia went on the side of decentralizing and strengthening local governance. Ghana went into community participation in expanding coverage, while Bangladesh went into PPP, and Brazil went into the decentralization and regulatory agencies. So if only one strategy was good enough for everyone, all the countries would have gone for that. But people adapted their systems according to their local context. Now that we're having 36 nations or 37 nations in Nigeria, I suppose that every state, including Abuja, should be able to study its own concept and see which one is the most what? The most appropriate. For example, I think I'm from, pleasantly from Kaduna, the regulatory framework that the wash sector has is a bit decentralized. For example, a normal district in Katswak has a district manager, has a director of admin, has a director of finance, has an auditor, has every appurtenances that the home office or the head office has. So if you want to isolate Banawa, you would be able to isolate them. If you want to isolate Doka, you will be able to isolate them. So decentralization seemed to be working for them. Would I suggest that as a strategy? I would recommend it. Why? Because you are capable of solving a smaller problem before you go to a larger problem. What are the key implementing strategies? As always, we say develop clear policy framework, establish comprehensive policies and objectives, roles and responsibilities. As simple as that is, it's still a major problem in our water sector. We still don't know where wastewater is supposed to be. We still don't know where the regulator is supposed to be. We still don't know how the governance structure of the service provider should be. We still don't know whether they should be split into regions or not, into different agencies, whether you can have 2-3 service providers in a city or not. But by the way, why shouldn't you have 2-3 service providers in a state? I mean, in a city. Why shouldn't you? To be fair to you, there is no utility that is serving up to 10 million people anywhere in the world. anywhere in the world. They are decentralized into 1 million, 2 million, 300,000, 600,000, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. That is what you are capable of reaching. But in Lagos, a city of about 20 million, we are having one utility trying to reach 23 million people. In Kaduna, you have 10 million people clustered in one location, and you want one CASWORK to reach 10 million people per se. So we should start looking into possibility of decentralizing. Enhancing regulatory environment. Our regulators are still not having the teeth that they need to what? That they need to have. They are not having the capacity that they need to have. They are not having the structure that they need to have. I believe strongly that a staffing of about 5, 10, 15 people will be able to do a strong regulatory function for a city like Bauchi, like Kaduna, the smaller ones. Maybe more numbers can handle Lagos, but it doesn't have to be a full-blown agency with 232 staff, but a compact 10, 15 professionals, I believe, can go far. Then, it looks like I was consumed by decentralization. There's a third point there again, promoting decentralization and local governance. Friends, the people who are having challenge are better positioned to be able to solve their challenges. So when you bring them into management, when you bring them into the board of your utilities, they would probably have more things to say than you would have imagined. Institutional capacity. In Nigeria, we are having two sets of capacity challenges: the capacity of the persons and the capacity of the institution. Okay, you just say time. The capacity of the persons and so please, can you permit me some 5 minutes? The capacity of persons and the capacity of the institutions. Whenever we call for adverts, you would only be able to interview those who applied. And those who applied are the persons within the catchment of your advert. So if we don't know, the people who don't know keep what? Keep applying. Enhancing partnerships, promoting transparency and accountability, inclusivity, and political commitment. The resultant effect, friends, is that there will be transparency and accountability. There will be optimal resource allocation. There will be, we will be attracting investments. There will be sustainability of short and long-term planning. And there will also be what I call community engagement and ownership, data-driven decisions. Just, I have a great voice. Okay, it's helping you. Okay. I take 2, 3 points again. Attracting investment, sustainability and long-term planning, community engagement and ownership, data-driven decision-making, and equity and inclusion. That last one is trying to say, please carry everybody along. Don't design your programs in isolation. Consider the women in your design. Consider the vulnerable in your design. Consider all those that are disadvantaged in your design. And I ended this way. When systems embody transparency and accountability, they ensure optimal resource allocation conditions, implement a long-term sustainability plan, foster community engagement and ownership, prioritize equity and inclusivity, and utilize data-driven decision-making processes, which are all the strategies I had put. They attract readily available public and non-public funding streams. When people want to release their money, they want to find out how safe the money will be. Thank you. Any question? One question, please. It has to be relevant because I'm giving you my 2.5 minutes. One question, please. And let it be very relevant. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. So my question is on your side on the matching best practice system.
Yes.
So
Come again.
So, looking at all of this,
Yeah.
because you are presenting for us in Lagos or Nigeria, can
Yeah.
we know what is the situation or where are we in all of this Nigeria's situation so that we can adequately benchmark against all this?
Okay, great. Nigeria is a federating unit, a country with 36 federating states. Is that okay? So in essence, we are actually having 36, 37 countries. Is that okay? We are actually having 36, 37 countries. So if we are going to be talking about Nigeria, we will not talk about Nigeria as one set of governance structures, because the way water is governed in Nigeria is such that every state can govern itself. So you would maybe allow me to hazard, individual states benchmarking so that you would know how others are doing. I've just told you a little bit of Kaduna that is decentralized in the management of its water service provision. Is that okay? Bauchi was centralized like Lagos until I went there, and I thought that it's difficult for someone from Munti there to be trying to get instruction from the central office here, and I influenced them to decentralize into about 5 strategic business units, and so it was. Cross River is centralized in spite of the various states the various sub-towns, Ogoja, Obudu, Itigidi, and all the other towns, right? They are as different, but they are still centralized. Is that okay? Lagos, I've told you, is very centralized. From all governance is from Ijora. Where am I? Imo, the same thing. In fact, the same office. Anambra, no, I don't know much about Anambra. Delta, Delta, my people. Delta is also centralized. Is that okay? So, generally, Sokoto is very centralized. Niger is also centralized. But Niger, we also succeeded in decentralizing so that Suleja is able to take some decisions and other towns. But they are all centralized, centrally controlled. So essentially, I must say, most are centralized, while few are decentralized. Is that clear, please?
So essentially, sir, are you saying that the decentralized ones perform better?
Yes.
Services to people, inclusively and socially?
Exactly. Look at, for example, that is the home office with Sam. And Olou is the outside location, let's say Lekki. Then there is a bust in Lekki. And instructions have to come from here. And a plumber has to come from here to travel across to Lekki. Before you go there, you have already had what is called non-revenue water. But if governance is within Lekki, they are coming to the office, they see it, say, Oga, there is a bust here. Say, stay there. I'm sending people for you. And then people move to that place and will repair. Thank you. God bless you.
I know, sorry.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, okay, this thing is working. Very distinguished participants, a round of applause for yourselves. I didn't say for me, right? I say for yourselves. Good. So we're shifting gears now. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your understanding. And so we're moving to panel presentation now. And the next, the panel presentation for this room is titled Sustainability Initiatives Supporting Sustainable Development Goals. And we have Dr. Peter Cookie. The panelists here are Dr. Mrs. Oyeyemi Ayola, Engineer Clement Nze, Amaka Onyemelukwe, and Mrs. Oluwa Soramidayo George. Please make your way to the platform, please. Please clap for them as they come. Okay, so Hold on. After you're done, yeah, after the presentation, then you come up so that you can all see his presentation. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
I will make it very snappy. So that's my name. I work for the Center for Water and Sanitation Study at Rivers State University. And so we are looking at sustainability initiatives supporting Sustainable Development Goals 6. Yeah, we have to make it 6 because we are talking about water and sanitation. So these are the issues we will look at, okay? So it became from the MDGs when we're looking at having people without access to have, just give 50%. So if there are 10 people that don't have access, just get 5, and that is okay. But even upon that, we managed to survive for water, but sanitation was still below performance. Now with the SDG, the burden, I won't read it, so the burden becomes heavier because we're talking about universal access. So how do we provide safely managed water and sanitation, hygiene to, next slides, to 200 and something million people, or in Lagos now, almost 21 million population. So the idea was to guarantee universal access to ensure that wash services are achieved, and also, if also believe that it's a key developmental challenge because there's always some linkages behind. If you achieve wash services, you can achieve other services. So, because they are all tied to health, to food security, to even the urban development. And so there are a lot of problems like, okay, I'm from Port Harcourt, River State, so you hear it for so many reasons, but the last governor constructed many flyovers, but if you go, there's no public toilet. Go to those flyovers, they are just open defecation. It is an urination. And so it's also common in Lagos. No public toilet. Don't think they are being done by mad people. When you are under that pressure, you will not remember whether you are in mainland bridge where people are. So I ask my students, go all over Port Harcourt, take pictures from any of those flyovers. Just this broad day afternoon now, you see people were still doing it. So political commitment when it comes to SDG challenge, is very it's not there. Though we try to see some here and some other states, inadequate, some responsibilities are not clear. Like you said, you have so many agencies, partners doing the same thing, duplicating effort. There's no cooperation. You believe that we're all working for one government. Why are we having so much, conflicts, So, and there's also lack of evidence or certainty regarding global scenario. We don't have insufficient knowledge. That we're talking about data here. And so, and the policy people, the public people are in a hurry. They want to achieve results. So most of the projects are initiated without proper study. Like, again, I take you back to the flyover again. So if you are familiar to Port Harcourt, if you know Garrison takes you to Waterline. Garrison takes you to Transamadi. So you should have expected that if it is designed with proper data, where would they put the flyover? Where do you have more people? So it should have been empty at Transamadi, but it's on. The funny one is even opposite the guy's house, that you have about 6 cars in a day running through it. So the question is, would a proper study done to, was it designed to remove traffic? I'm just using traffic. It's a simple data. Just stand at the junction and count in the morning, count in the afternoon, count in the evening. So, like if you go to Thailand, they have one road in Bangkok. When the traffic is much, they convert the whole other lane to push out the traffic out. So it's not necessarily about constructing. Of course, when I teach students, road construction does not address issue of congestion. So that's another issue, another time. Yes. So there are linkages, like I've said before. It links to so many sectors. It links to urban. It links to even the partnership. So we need partnership, which is one of the issues. Next slide. They have the paper. They always read it, so that I allow our panelists to have the time to do the job. So sustainable initiatives. So we try to look at what are the initiatives that can help sustain the water and sanitation. So, of course, the water security through stewardship. So the Alliance of Water Stewardships, of course, also have global compacts. They've done quite a lot to ensure that corporate bodies also play a role in achieving the SDG 6. So you also have the water footprint, which is basically what they will count, how even that laptop you're using is a water resources from another country that were used to produce those things. So when you are drinking Bombita, they produce them in Lagos. So we are consuming Lagos water across other states. So if they manufacture something in Plateau, when you're eating the potatoes, the yam, and all those things they bring from the north, the meat, it is the water from those areas you are consuming. No, I'm serious, in the most serious note. So you find out, you can see the interrelationship that is involved, so which require a more partnership, because if they begin to calculate, people have done, the data are there, they can tell how much water that is used to produce cocoa, and coffee, Bombita, even your sardine, your Milo. Water is involved in growing the cocoa. Water is involved in washing the cocoa. Water is involved in almost everything that results in that production of that thing. And if they tell you the quantity of water that is used, you'll be amazed. So we also, I think let's just go straight to the slide then. So this shows you, so these are companies globally that have been also looking at issues of water stewardships, and Coca-Cola is here, and you ask Coca-Cola what they have been doing here. Because global Coca-Cola is doing quite a lot. Nestle and the rest under the Alliance CEO Water Mandate. You also hear more about that. They are here. Next slide. So there are many water uses, like I've said, used for different things and for different purposes. And you can see the freshwater consuming country. And but then if most of the product we use in Nigeria is from China, we also consuming from China too. So next. So that's what we're talking about, the virtual water. So you see, the cow, the shirt we are wearing, they all have water-related input. So water resources, water utility is supposed to be one of the most richest companies. But why? I don't know. We will have the managers here, so they will tell us better what is, why are we not tapping into this global, and see what we can do. And of course, the lady from CEO Water Mandate will tell us more of how they'll try to make sure. Yes. So then here we also try to bring out this concept we developed. The guy that was talking from Thailand, I have worked in AIT with that team. So we came out with this book, Regenerative Sanitation, on the idea that, so the question was, sustainable sanitation, which is fine. So the question was, what do you sustain? Do you sustain bad practices? Do you sustain open defecation? Do you sustain lack of fecal sludge treatment? Do you sustain non-recovery of resources? So we came out with the idea that we can regenerate sanitation, where sanitation contributes to the development. So if you come to our institute, Center for Water and Sanitation Studies, you will learn more about this. So you need to leapfrog from sustainable sanitation to where we have net benefit from sanitation. So these are some of the strategies we are thinking can. Then, so where there's a circle, everything is used to improve. Sanitation is now seen as a resource. Then we came up also the same institute, with Professor Tamara. So we came up with the integrated sanitation functional value chain. Now, if you look at the traditional sanitation value chain, it just has the emptying, the collection, that does not show you the true picture of the enterprises and businesses that are involved in the sanitation chain. So you have the product design. Those guys that are talking about the ICE software, they are designing. So they are part of the value chain in sanitation. The people that are manufacturing are part of the value chain. The people that now comes when you call the plumber, the mason, to now fix this thing together, the enterprises, businesses. And so if you want to grow the sanitation in marketing, the advocacy, like what LIWAC is, there's a lot of organizations that do conference all over, in fact, the facilitator, the conference all over the world for different organizations. So if you look, and then of course the biomass recovery, if you look, and then sanitation services. So if the sanitation utilities appreciate the different businesses and enterprises, then if you make money, then the sustainability, how you can generate. So these are the value chains, the integrated functional sanitation value chain. So if you come to our center, you will learn more about some of these issues. So then, safe sanitation adaptive integrated management services, we also develop it because in the current climate change problem, what safely managed sanitation is not good enough. You need to have a resilient sanitation, of course, the Lagos State Resilient Program. But then what we did, went a station further, is, next slide, how do you achieve, this is the concept itself, you look at the ecological systems, look at the technology systems, look at the resource system to be able to design. Of course, the vulnerability of the system should be considered. So like we had the flood, so if you want to mainstream resilience into your sanitation systems, so you define what is it flooding, then what is the subsystem. Okay, I'm from a coastal area, I'm from Opopo, where before you dig 1 meter, there is water coming. So now, if you want to do a septic tank, assuming that again has a question we are trying to research into. Do you dig down or do you build up? So you have to put consideration into those. So by the time you consider these issues, define what resilience do you want to achieve? Because it's not just, they have properties, they have indicators. Because what you cannot measure, you cannot manage. So what are the resilient characteristics you want to impute into the system? So if you're talking about water scarcity, just let me shock you. You know the septic tank we are using, water closet? It's not designed for non-sewer systems. It's designed for sewer systems to be able to produce enough water to push the wastewater through the system to the treatment plant. But now we are using septic tank, which is non-sewer. So don't you think we need to reconsider what to design? So I'm taxing our students now. We cannot just sit down as a consuming country. We must begin to, the data student must begin to be confronted with some realities of what is happening. So by the time you define what you want to improve, like the AIT, we came out with so many innovations. They have solar septic tank, that the solar panel heat up the wastewater in the septic tank. And do you know, we don't even have a turnkey package wastewater treatment septic tank that I can go offshore and just take it and install. There's not, everybody's construct whatever they like in the name of septic tank. So there are a lot of businesses. If you want to achieve sustainability, you must be able to define how do people earn livelihood. And when you earn livelihood, you have business. Again, I have said this indirectly when I was talking about our flyover in Port Harcourt. Of course, you pass through the lagoon. It's no longer for wash people. Like I was saying, I expected to see a lot of the bank here. They need to learn how they understand this issue, then provide proper finance. Why the banks are not providing, they don't know what we are talking about. So that is a challenge for you. They don't know what they are talking about. They need to be schooled. It's not, if they need to be schooled, then you can now develop special financial packages. It can be three or four banks coming together, and then you come out with well thought out feasibility, investment in return that can produce, okay, if we put this money here, we are going to do this under 3 years, we get this. So well measurable feasibility study. So the bank need to learn this thing. It's not only by importation of fuel that is. So what has to be integrated into development? We don't just have to say, you build the city, you build Lekki. Now they're building Lekki. Nobody's talking about water. Nobody's talking about sanitation. Then after, hey, the road, hey, the whole place is smelling. How will it not smell? So you need to work from the beginning. Okay, it's so funny, even in Port Harcourt. This flyover was built last year. Now they're doing African Development Bank water project. They're breaking the whole place again to put the pipe. Did you not know that the project was already there, that to even create a right of way? So all this creates confusion, into the systems, and at the end of the day, we're just wasting money. With the money we say we don't have. So we need to begin to. I'm serious. City managers, watch people have to take this message to them. So this has been said a lot. So this is why we're having the cholera. So if we make an inclusive systems for water and sanitation, and then we should be able to achieve. So there needs to be stakeholder participation. Accountability is very important. Responsiveness, consensus. We find it difficult to agree on many issues. So let's learn to begin to build consensus, effectiveness, and efficiency, inclusiveness, respect for the rule of law. We don't want too much of interlocutory injunction and So one of the is to require engaging policies that require business, science, society at large. We need to, the practitioners, the business, the academia, they have to come together. We need to formulate incentive. For me, I believe on incentive. Incentive can motivate people, to do. We need to link it to SDG, the public benefit, seek new model of financing, as well as project evaluations. There are a lot of things that can be done. So also innovative financing for SDG. The CEO Water mandate is here. They will tell us what they have been doing in other places and how can we reproduce it here. So in conclusion, partnership. Thank you.
Can you send us the slides?
Thank you so much, Dr. Kuki. Thank you. Now, let me call the names of the panelists once again, and please, when I call your name, meet me here, please. So we have, Dr. Mrs. Oyeyemi Ayola, she here. There's Engineer Clement Nze, there's Temitope Ogunrinde, and Tumi Onemade. Please, as many of these panelists as we have here should please make way. Okay. Well, please encourage them. Let me support them so they don't feel lonely. Thank you. So my name is Henry Anibia Bonica, and it's my pleasure to be moderating this session. Thank you. Oh, okay. All right. So it's my pleasure to be moderating this session. Now, listening to Dr. Cookie's insightful presentation, I don't know, what's the takeaway for you immediately? Immediate takeaway, one or two takeaways from this presentation before we go into the meat. It's just the two of you, so we have enough time, right?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. And it almost seemed as if I didn't need to get on stage anymore. Even though we haven't met before today. But these are the challenges which he has highlighted. And the truth about it is, when it comes to societal issues just like this, as rudimentary as it can be, the progress that we are going to make is based on what we individually decide to do. We can speak all the big grammar and all the theoretical knowledge and everything with our bachelor's, master's, and PhD, and doctorate degrees and things. But when it comes to WASH, it is you and I's decision. So I'll stop there for now because I know we're just starting off.
Introduce yourself to the audience.
Yes. My name is Tumi Onamade. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the UN Global Compact here in Nigeria. I'm representing Mrs. Oluwasormidayo George. And we have an initiative which is the CEO Water Mandate that Dr. Kuki was talking about earlier. So just in the spirit of partnerships, what the UN Global Compact is about is we cater more to private sector. We know the Sustainable Development Goals, but it's not just a responsibility for governments. So across the world, we have about 22,000 businesses who we work with on achieving Sustainable Development Goals, implementing sustainability into their policies and processes. And in Nigeria, we have about 200 companies that we're working with actively. An initiative, because we work on sustainability, which is full scope, so you talk about human rights, labor, anti-corruption, and environment. Environment has many sub-themes as well. So you have water as a sub-theme of environment. And that's where the CEO Water Mandate comes in, which is CEO-led, working with companies as well for corporate water stewardship, with Dr. Kuki referenced. I think I've done justice to that. I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'll introduce myself. I was about to do that. My name is Temitope Ogrede. I'm the National Environment Manager for Nigerian Bottling Company, producers of Coca-Cola in Nigeria. I'm representing Amaka Oyemelekwe. She's the Sustainability Director at the Coca-Cola Company. All right. So I'll just jump to what my takeaway is from Dr. Kuki's presentation. One word that comes to my mind is opportunities. Huge opportunities. I mean, we can see that there are a lot of opportunities when it comes to the wash sector. It's only for us to make the decision what area of those opportunities we want to key into. And you see, if we are able to identify the viable areas where we want to key into, I'm telling you there are opportunities for people to invest in them.
Fantastic. So I'm excited, right? Looking at the two of you, both of you from the private sector, it's just the two of you, and we're having this conversation together. So it will be good to hear from you. What would the private sector do to harness these opportunities? For the guy from Coca-Cola, on the heels of Koma in Adamawa State, you get to see a bottle of Coke, right? Everywhere on the planet there's a bottle of Coke. Good. He just drops in the desert. So what can the private sector do to support government? Agreed. Something is ongoing. But what does the private sector need to do that will ensure business unusual? And are there impediments to the private sector harnessing the opportunities in the wash sector? What do you think?
Okay, I will believe that the private sector is doing quite a number of things. I'll give an example of one thing that we have done with the water boards, for instance. A few years ago, we partnered with RTI, and one of the things we did was that we provided some capacity building to 6 state water boards. And what we wanted to do, the objective of that project was really to share our areas of competence, how we manage things in the private sector with the state water boards. Because one of the things that we realized that in terms of even managing the public works pipelines, and so on and so forth. These are competencies that we have to manage utilities within our system. So what we just simply did was, okay, we shared what our practices are and what are the things that they can learn from it, the staff of the Water Board. And so it was a very good project, and we believe that they took certain things away from it. So in terms of sharing information, sharing data, and so on and so forth, that's one area that that the private sector can come in to support the public sector in improving wash systems.
Okay, from my point of view, I think because a lot of people refer to my agency being the UN Global Compacts, but because we work very strongly with businesses, there's one thing that is very critical for us. Businesses are set up to make profits. If they're not profits, then they're not for profits or an NGO, which is my company. So that's something very critical I usually like to start off from. Because at the end of the day, just like has been referenced earlier, for different industries or for different professions that they've seen very heavy investments, it's because there was an idea of innovation. Idea of innovation, I use that phrase because the innovation might not necessarily have materialized, but they say that there's prospects for innovation in this particular area. So taking Lagos into context, and when I was thinking about this, I was like, you really can't talk about water and just isolate Lagos. You have to talk about Nigeria as a whole, or even maybe just the other states that are around Lagos as well. Profitability is very key, just like I said. And just like Tokwe has said, there are opportunities. Opportunities, I look at it that we are having new city developments in other parts of Lagos. Are we introducing water recycling into the projects? It's an opportunity for IGR. It's an opportunity to revise the Nigerian Building Code. It's an opportunity for investment. It's an opportunity also for training and creating new jobs. It's even an opportunity for education, because you then have LASUTEC can then come up to say, oh, we are offering this course in maybe bioengineering or things that relate to water sanitation and hygiene and the core specifics, right? It's also an opportunity to, just like I said, IGR, and then you can have new agencies or embed whatever it is under an agency. So looking at it from innovation, but that innovation would not start off from the corporates. So I'm also putting it back to the professionals in this field. There's a responsibility to, and I'll use the local lingo to say there's an opportunity to package wash as an attractive business opportunity. I think once you have that, you would have both profits and then funding organizations also looking greatly into this area. It's happened with climate financing. It's happened every day. You see, even companies that are not necessarily related to climate projects are coming up with climate projects because they're seeing that there's financing in that area that they could access. You see agricultural financing as well coming up. But WASH is the rudiment. It's the rudiment because it's related to education goals, if you look at SDGs, health, nutrition. So that is very fundamental, and I think I have a bias because my first degree was in civil and environmental engineering.
Just a second to me. Perhaps I'll bring Dr. Kuki in here. Dr. Kuki, again, since we're just the two of them, good to have your insights, just from the floor there, right? So why are we not able to have, I hear her say wash products, wash products, viable products, around wash. What are the impediments? Why have we not been able to achieve that? The professionals in the field, what has stopped us over the years from, designing bankable wash, and profitable wash products?
I would say there was a kind of, the knowledge reside more with the non-governmental, the water airs, the UNICEF, the big guys. The knowledge has not trickled down. But that's one of the reasons I left Netherlands. I was teaching Asia as a senior lecturer, and when we developed program, we transferred to East Africa, South Africa. What about Nigeria? I said, okay. I came back 2020, and we started this center. First, you need a critical mass of people with knowledge. So if they talk about utility capacity issue.
So do we have anybody from Water Aid here?
So.
Any of those guys here, because we'll also like to hear from you. Because I hear you say a lot of the knowledge and competence resides with you.
Yeah. So now, And we don't have a formal institution where people are trained in a systematic way. If you want to produce a lawyer, you go to do law faculty. If you want to produce an engineer, you do this. So that is why I think JOS have started, University of JOS has started a program. University has started a program. So when we now have a system, no, he said that it's utilities they are managing. Let's forget this. Let's not make it look, I'm not saying I know what you other processes. But what I'm trying to say is that your major raw material is water. So I now asked him. He was a manager, retired from Shell. Teleco, I said, if your father was the owner of Port Harcourt Water Board, will it run down? People say, Koki, do you know a civil servant? I said, we are not here to talk about civil servant. We are here to talk frank question. But do you know those things change the trajectory? Those things made us, they gave me scholarship to study in Thailand and Netherlands. It is that same knowledge that established this center. So what we're trying to say is,
all right.
He's the manager, the investment manager in River State. So
okay.
He will meet Coca-Cola.
All right, thank you so much. So let's hear from the guy from Coca-Cola then.
Okay, so one thing I would like to add really is that we really need to re-engineer the way we look at WASH. Because really when we talk about WASH, I also used to be in the non-profit sector. And I was doing a lot of WASH. I was going to school, training children about, all of these water and sanitation things. And in fact, we built a toilet with plastic water bottles then when I was in Kaduna. But one thing we must understand is that when anybody looks at WASH, they start thinking of charity. They believe that WASH is something that World Bank, USAID, UN has to donate water to. And so everybody ignores it and think that this is not a viable business area. So we really need to also change our conversation, the way we are talking about WASH, and make people understand that it is a business area that people can actually make business from and make profit from. I think that's just what I wanted to add.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Fantastic. Okay, so over to me. Now, I have always known that when other sectors lag, the private sector sometimes takes initiative and drives the process. But again, when we see that what's happening with WASH in this part of the world, is it not possible for the private sector to come in and help, first of all, democratize knowledge, since, like Prof had said, we're having issues with knowledge uptake and all of that, markets, research, linkage and all. Since all of that is not happening, can we not see the private sector come in and drive activities and drive business and drive profitability there? Is it possible? Do we expect any of those innovative action from the private sector?
So I look at it from, just like I said earlier, businesses or corporates are set up first for profits, and we've moved from the time of CSR to sustainability. Yes. Corporates, in fact, in part of my job, I tell corporates that if you want to work on sustainability, look at the areas where you have an outsized effect. Outsized effects in the sense that a company who's producing or manufacturing guns and ammunitions has a labor and human rights outsized effects. A company who is in the oil and gas space has an outsized effect on the environment. So for a company that has an outsized effect on water and WASH as the primary, that would be a good company to approach, right, when it comes to this conversation. But in terms of companies actually getting them on board, it's not a problem, because you have, and I must give kudos to the Nigerian companies, both indigenous and subsidiaries. Subsidiaries, sometimes as a matter of global mandates, they're implementing sustainability, but even Nigerian companies as well are implementing sustainability in whatever fronts. They're saying that is what we need to do. So it's never a problem, and that's taking me back to the point of how do we pitch WASH. I'm able to understand WASH because of my background in civil and environmental engineering. How does somebody who studied BizAd and whose mandate is to make sure his bottom line is not in red, make sure that he's reducing his capex, make sure that he's increasing his IRR in the next 5 years, 300% growth. WASH is attractive. And that's why I'm also championing. I'm not excluding myself from the conversation. I'm saying, let's collaborate together. Is a word that I hear when I go for events and speaking engagements, partnerships. But the true sense of partnerships is working together, putting aside our selfish interests to achieve a goal that would benefit both you and I. So that is something that has to be in our value system. The value system that, at the end of the day, what am I looking forward to? What do I want to achieve? And that's where partnership comes in. As the UN Global Compact, we're very open to partnerships, both with corporates, and that's why we have a lot of our corporates. I must also give kudos to Coca-Cola, who's also one of us, and championing a lot of sustainability agenda. So there are corporates in that bucket, but if I bring together a group of corporates to say, oh, we want to have a consultative session or an awareness session about a WASH project, we have that responsibility to make sure that we are making sure WASH projects are viable. They see it as an opportunity, and they see it as, oh yes, let's invest our time and resources, not just funding. Them training the water board is an investment of time and resources. Funding will come along the way, but that's always the starting point, making sure that corporates have that. And it's something for me. The CEO Water Mandate that Dr. Kuki referenced earlier, it's a global initiative, and you have about 2,000 companies, so you can think of the real big companies, Nestle, Coca-Cola, and the likes at the global level. Implementation in Nigeria is mostly led by the subsidiaries, and these are addressing river basins across the world. And there are about 3 river basins that are of area of concentration for the CEO Water Mandate. But we find that there's not a lot of traction. The businesses are ready, but it's the stakeholders that are also, we need to bring together. So I would always say partnership. And as I'm saying partnership up on this stage, please engage me whatever way. We're always very ready to collaborate.
Fantastic. Thank you. So my last question for you. Specifics. How is Coca-Cola integrating sustainability into water stewardship?
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Okay, so...
It's an accountability question.
So yes, of course, quite a number of things. The strategy of Coca-Cola for water stewardship, I'll just mention a few key ones. The number one is one word that I saw, featuring in Dr. Kuki's presentation, constantly, which is the word regenerative. So we have something we call the regenerative water use. And what is that all about? Number one is that we are ensuring, first of all, that we are reducing the amount of water we use to produce a bottle of Coke, or 1 liter of Coke, as it were. So between 2017 and now, in Nigeria, we have reduced our water use to 14%, water use ratio by 14% rather. And how are we doing that? We're doing a lot of reuse, recycling, and reducing process within our systems in our processes. And one thing that is important is that this is also what we try to when we did the project with RTI and USAID, these were some of the things that we shared with them in terms of the initiative that we have. And then we also make sure that we are returning that same amount of water that we're using for our products. We are returning it back into the environment in a way that it's able to meet the environment's needs. Number two is also providing water for communities, and particularly communities that are water stressed. And we're focusing on areas where the vulnerable people are, women and girls. And one of the things we've done in Nigeria, for instance, is that we have invested in Nigeria. CCH, Coca-Cola Hellenic, has invested 1 million euros in water, sanitation, and hygiene, initiatives in Nigeria. And we have already implemented 2 blocks, 2 sanitation, water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities in Lagos State. And across Nigeria, we have other water, sanitation, and hygiene facilities. And so we're doing all of those things. And one other very key area is in terms of how we are also making sure that our products are being sourced from sustainable sources. where people were encouraging people to use less water within their systems. So these are some of the actions that we are taking. Yeah, there's so much more. So,
Toby, if you don't mind, let's go to the audience and the other participants if there are questions, and it's been an interesting conversation so far. So it will be good to have questions from the other participants. It's not just the two of them, the whole, right? So have a listen to. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the moderator, and also Dr. Kuki for the insightful presentation that he made. And also to the panelists who are really giving a different perspective as to what WASH ought to be, because that's not where we are at the moment. My name is Gilbert Akol. I come from Uganda. I work for a consulting firm. I'm also passionate about Port Harcourt because I've just reported to start off a project in Port Harcourt. Mine is really a challenge to Dr. Kuki. Yes, because this is from my own experience. I've been in the WASH sector for about 20 years now, straight from university. The experience is that you rightly put it, the knowledge, there is a knowledge gap. The people who have knowledge and the people who need to utilize it, they are not together. But my experience is that those two can never be together, or that knowledge can never come down if the two cannot partner to implement, not to partner in presentations and discussions, but to partner in implementation. I get this from an example where I come from. I come from Uganda. We have one utility, which is the National Water and Sewerage Corporation. And one of the challenges that was identified, it was also my first employer, was that gap. But the solution was, which I say is a challenge to Dr. Kuki, was a partnership between the water company and the learning institution, that is Makerere University. So in this case, the university offered a kind of a subsidized program for those who are already employed in the water sector to undertake studies at the university. And the corporation was also willing and said, okay, we will pay the other money on behalf of our employees. So that fostered the issue of knowledge transfer from the academia to the practitioners in terms of vocational studies, certificates, diplomas, and you rightly talk about UNESCO IHE being huge in East Africa. I'm also one of the beneficiaries. That is how it came about, because then after I have done this degree at Makerere, what happens? Then UNESCO IHE comes on board to take you for the master's program and the PhD program. So all I'm trying to say is that can there be some collaborative efforts towards implementation? The CEO Forum can be a point for discussion of this kind of things. How can the CEO Forum come in? Because the CEO represent institutions. They have some financing. Can they provide some scholarships or some subsidized through focused programs? It's not just blanket scholarship. It has to be focused on sanitation. Thank you.
I don't have any question. He's my brother. We are Lubina. We don't fight.
All right. Okay. I saw your hand raised, sir. I saw your hand raised. Right? Your finger, sorry.
Yes, mine was just like just thinking aloud that whenever we talk about sustainability.
Sorry, we'd like to know your name.
Yes, my name is Judge Bibi, the Director General for the Regulatory Commission for River State.
The big boss.
It's my boss. All right. So whenever we talk about sustainability, there's something that just comes to my mind, because if it's not personalized, there must be ownership of it to a certain level, and there's little we can do at this level. Let's take, for example, our Igbo brothers. How are they able to transmit some of their knowledge? And they guide it so much. And what do you call it? All the universities outside are coming to learn from whatever trade they are doing within the, and they're doing so well. So there's something we must think outside the box. How do we get this down to the people so that they can imbibe it? Now, for example, we come from the same place. My people were thinking a whole lot of things. You build a house, do something. But the first thing I did for them was to build a toilet. Because I think that is very necessary. So we must reach that point where, this thing, just like you mentioned, This is between life and death when it comes to sanitation and other issues surrounding it. So there must be a way where we can, see how we can reach out beyond this. So the curricula, good, your project and all that. I wish a point you can reach out to the very least of them, and see how you can build up from there. Good. You're my good partners. We will.
Thank you so much. And we have two more, then we'll have a party shots from the table here. All right. Someone's up there. After her, then you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Demola Elizabeth. So for me, I have a question for Dr. Kuki, and I have one for both panelists. So the first question, yes, we do not have government representation here, but I want to ask, because I believe he's also a civil servant and a top government person. In my perspective, I think this issue of sanitation, water sanitation, is more of a social issue than issues that need that's totally focused on the private sector. Yes, we've heard the private sector perspective about it. So I want to, what should be the role of the government in all of this issue? Like the first speaker said, someone here said, when we hear WASH, most times we are waiting for funding partners to come and give us support, and then we are just waiting. Maybe, let me not say the government is just waiting. So what should be the role of the government? Because I see a lot of research and statistics, development opportunities in what's in your presentation. So are we also supposed to wait for the private sector to come and support our research and development to ensure that all these things are put in place? Then for the panelists, my question is, I've seen a lot of projects. Yes, you've highlighted a lot of projects that you have done. And the first speaker said that most projects, they stop after the project duration. Once you fund a project and the duration for the project lapse, you just see that project stop functioning. So what do you want? How will you ensure the sustainability of your project? We want to see that those projects stay in the environment far, far longer than the expiration of the project time frame. What are you doing?
Thank you so much. Again, I like the fact that you brought up the dimension of government. Okay, can you give her the phone? Did I say phone? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Agbile Okiki Jesu. My question is directly to the three of them. And that's, we are talking about sanitation, open defecation, and things like that. I want to ask, what are these companies doing to go to the lower stage of education? Taking it to the primary school, the nursery, the primary, the secondary, the university. Now we are talking majorly about the university. Sometimes when we teach the little ones, it gives them that trigger to know, what's this about? I want to learn it in the university. So what's the steps being taken? Thank you.
So who'll go first? To me, you want to go first?
So I'll start off with her question. WASH is water, sanitation, and hygiene. And if you pick those three words, it's actually more multi-pronged and multifaceted than you think. An angle of implementation is just the education to schools. An angle of implementation is also companies training their value chain. So at the end of the day, it's not, one approach is not bad, but whatever approach is taken has to complement one another, and that's where we see results in the next decade or in the next 5 years. So that's what I would say when it comes to trainings. There's been the conversation about knowledge transfer. There's been the conversation about investments into water projects. It's key that there are many approaches, and it's been said here earlier that in previous times we're looking at WASH as we're waiting for government appropriation or looking for funding, and WASH projects are just at the level of awareness campaigns, awareness programs. I remember like maybe 16 years ago, there was huge awareness on open defecation and things like that, especially in Lagos. But it's looking at it from different approaches, and this is the reason why we're having this kind of conversation of beyond the awareness, we're looking at this as projects. A typical example I'll give is pure water, and plastics. There was a lot of awareness on pure water and plastic, on how disposing your waste and everything, but you still find some people throwing out their pure water, sachet nylons, and their waste. But when there was the innovation and introduction that, oh, this is a money-making venture for me, you cannot drive the full length of Third Mainland Bridge and see nylons or pure water or plastic. You cannot even go to, if you're traveling from Egbeda. I'm Nigerian, and don't be deceived by my name, Tumi. I'm not South African. I know Tumi is a South African name. If you're traveling from Egbeda and you're going all the way to, I'm losing the bus stop. But if you're traveling through that route, you will see people collecting plastics. You can't even see pure water nylons anymore. You won't even see it, except you know the people that are actually dealing in that business. But you'll see people collecting plastics and putting them up heaps, waiting for off-takers to come and buy that material before they crush and turn them into pellets. So that is where I'm saying that you will see more change. And in the Nigeria of today, we are having economic issues where people are looking for opportunities. If you're coming to tell me, as somebody who is living in everybody here, let's not deceive ourselves, we are not on the lower cadre that we're referring to. If you are truly on the lower cadre, if there's anybody on that lower cadre, if you're talking to them and you're saying, oh, you should stop defecating, you should stop over-defecating, they can't even afford to move from the one room that they are managing into a proper flat where they will have a separated toilet. So these are economical issues. They're not just awareness issues. We can make all the awareness we want, but if there's no economic development or economic opportunity for people, we won't move from this on to the next step. So that's where I would comment on that.
Thank you, Tumi. Over to you.
All right. So I'll first of all take our question in terms of how we can encourage more people to go into the academia. I'm thankful that Dr. Cookie is here. And the thing is, when he saw me, the first thing he came to tell me was that there's now a center in the there's now a center for water sanitation and hygiene in the university, River State University, and then he began to market it. And I'm telling you, one thing we have to do is that we must also market WASH as though it were a profitable business as well. One of the things that's making climate change initiatives to be very, very, much at the front burner now is because of the way it is being marketed. It is marketed very well. And it is marketed in such a way that, even, global governments are beginning to, put a lot of attention to it. So if we market it well, a lot of people now are going abroad to study sustainability and so on and so forth, mainly because of climate change issues.
Talk about marketing, and I talk about
yes.
social concern.
Yes.
Should we treat WASH as a social concern or as a business concern? But again, let's remind ourselves that we're short of time.
I will quickly take that. Yes, I agree. There is the aspect, because when it comes to water sanitation and hygiene, it's an issue of dignity. And it's a health issue as well. I mean, we see the cholera outbreak and all of this. So that is the social aspect of it. The other aspect, which is the business aspect, has to do with a lot of innovation. We need to begin to think to ourselves. A lot of people are doing open defecation. How exactly can we, innovate in order to, see this as an opportunity for people to harness even the sewage and turn it into electricity, for instance? That will be, for instance, a very good innovation.
Are you done? Because
okay, let me just stop it there. There's more to say.
So I guess we're done with the questions from the audience, and okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. There was just the sustainability of the project. Okay, the one thing that we make sure that we do is to involve the communities, because if you don't involve the communities, you don't even know their needs in the first place. You go in there, put in a project that they don't even need, that they don't care about, and what happens is that they're just going to leave it. So one thing we do is that we leverage on what is their need. What exactly are the already existing innovations there, and we'll leverage them in order to be able to build our projects on it. And once they are involved, you will see that they will take ownership of the project themselves. And we don't stop there. we still follow up on our communities. And I could give it a few examples, but because of our time, I'll just leave it there.
All right, so my final question, back to you, Timmy. Policy and regulatory landscape towards sustainability, what is missing? Can government do better? Are there gaps? Where are the gaps? Overview, generally. I don't expect you to go too deep, otherwise we'll not
That's
leave here
another
today.
session entirely.
But I just felt it's not good for us to leave here without just mentioning that, right?
Okay, so I'll try to make it brief. Policy regulatory landscape. Whilst Lagos, taking Lagos State as an example, whilst there's a lot of initiatives and policies trying to support sustainability as a whole, I'm talking broad-based here, just like has been rightly said, it's the knowledge and the implementation of these policies that is the primary issue. And also because looking at sustainability, when I'm having conversation with companies and regulatory bodies or the government, the first place you want to start from when you're introducing a somewhat new idea, I'll just use that phrase, a somewhat new idea for people to uptake, it's not necessarily from a fine or a tax point of view, but rather from an incentive point of view, a subsidy point of view. That is what we should be pushing forward when it comes to policies, and then you have that more uptake. I think that one of the major problems we have in the Nigeria of today, or what have gotten us to the point, is that it's not like we don't know what to do. We try to start off implementing, but then it's almost like we take 2 steps forward and then 10 steps backward. And we do that, and we repeat the cycle over and over again. Innovation is actually, you start something, you complete it, and I'm taking it to that question you asked about sustainability of projects. Sustainability of projects doesn't mean that you define a project, you complete it in 2 years, and you come back to still, after that 2 years, you should be moving to the next level. And that is how industries have grown. That's how you've gone from the 4th industrial revolution to the 2nd to the 3rd, and now we're in the 4th. It's because we are moving from level A to level B to level C, and there's that continuous upward growth. So in terms of maintaining sustainability of projects, it's being able to not just take 2 steps forward, and I'm trying to make it as rudimentary as possible, take steps forward and take more steps backward. But we are moving from level and ensuring uptake, both in the corporate space, both from individuals and our homes where we operate. And I know that there's WASH, as we've been talking about today, we're seeing a lot more about open defecation, but there's a lot more, and I would challenge every one of us to make sure that there are other very silent areas of WASH, and that's why I talk about it from the business angle of WASH. If we have real estate companies acquiring acres and hectares of land in new cities, it should be part of new city developments where you have water recycling systems. There can be a PPP partnership with government and with investors and saying, oh, we are redesigning our sewage, our sewer, our drainage systems, and we are recycling. We'll do a prototype and we'll understudy it for the next 3 years. So monitoring and evaluation, this is where we are. And then we replicate. That is innovation. That is sustainability.
A round of applause for her. A round of applause for him too. You have party shots?
Well, I'll just.
All right. Otherwise,
I think let's just.
All right.
Thank you very
So,
much.
distinguished participants, ladies, you have a question? Okay. So we should take our seats. So Dr. Koki, are the one keeping us here.
I'm not. I want. But it's not doing business. No, I think government can provide proper regulations and legislations. Create enough tax incentive and other subsidy incentive program that will enable the private sector come to thrive. I think if we do that, again, I don't want to talk too much.
All right.
About the research department, is it that the private sector also should be involved in the research department as regards WASH, or is it the responsibility of the government to take over?
No. Everybody should be involved in research. Everybody, both public, private, and what have you. Thank you.
So, please, a round of applause for our panelists. They have done justice to the issue at hand. Thank you so much. Thank you, Timmy. Always a pleasure listening to you, right? You remember me, right? Thank you. Now, let me answer your question, right? Major. major private organizations globally, budget for R&D keeps increasing astronomically on a daily basis because the trends are evolving, tastes are changing. So it's important that even the private sector commits enormous percentage of their funding, of their budget to R&D. And so gone are the days where we would expect universities only or research institutions only to churn out research. No. So the Procter & Gamble, so this part of the UK where Procter & Gamble has its research facility. Trust me, if you go there, there's no university in Nigeria that has that facility. It's mind-blowing. And so the big manufacturing concerns globally have cities dedicated to R&D because they do not want to wait for external parties, third parties to give them the R&D that would drive market penetration. So they have taken charge of their own destinies and they are churning out research. And so we hope to see someday organizations in the wash sector who would say, okay, we want to make money from wash, and so we'll begin to do R&D in that area, and they're able to churn out money, to undertake massive R&D that would feed, the market. So everybody is involved. Thank you. So a round of applause for yourself is amazing, right? Thank you so much. We'll do this again next year.
This happened in my shoe.